president.
My life matters.
We always talk about white people killing black people, but we don't talk enough about black on black crime. We kill each other.
My life matters.
Kansas City is different.
Stuff can happen at a moment.
My life matters.
Say for instance, somebody made me mad, I do the first thing that comes to my mind.
My life matters.
We just go and just retaliate now or just get revenge on anything.
My life matters.
I mean, we've got about 170 homicides already in the city this year.
My life matters.
I saw the news, and an 11-year-old girl was shot and killed, and that's all I saw.
What is good, everybody? Can you all hear me okay? I'm looking at my setup here. I think you can hear me. Let me check my YouTube feed. I see Michael Bird is on. Who else we got online with us? Let me know. Let me know. I'm trying to arrange some stuff here. How's you guys' day been so far? Those all over the world. We got people usually from Africa and from America. So my day is just beginning, but it's been a long morning already. We got Mark Smith. Mark, tell us where you're from. I know Mike is from Oklahoma. Is that right? Remind me. I believe that's the right Mike. Mark, let us know where you're from. I'm joining you guys from Georgia, so I'm excited about that and looking forward to staying connected. Today is going to be all about understanding some tips and tricks for live streaming. So if you have or currently do a live stream, which I've learned that a lot of you do, please make sure to let me know what you do or what you think is going to be a helpful tip for those who may be new to FreeShow and what they can do. All right, let's see. Kalispell MT, is that Montana? Look, I don't know where Kalispell. Let me look. Let me see. Mike, Oklahoma. Steve, what's going on, Steve? Steve won the YOLOcast stuff last week, so congrats on that one, Steve. I'm glad you got to get your test run for your live stream done. Now it's time to get it going. Yeah, so Montana, Kalispell, Montana. Sweet. Very cool. I love it. I love it. I haven't seen MT in a while. I was like, mountain? Like, what is going on? Let's see who else we got on. We got Layton, Maine. What's going on, Layton? Let us know where you're from. Let us know where you're from, Layton. I had a friend named Layton. I used to mentor with him. I gotta ask my wife to see if she can grab me some water. I left it out in the living room, I believe. But yeah, I'm glad to check in with all you guys to see how everybody's doing. How's your week been so far in terms of using FreeShow, ups and downs, highs and lows in terms of things that you've done? I know the last time I met with you guys, I don't think I went to North Carolina. I think I was on my way to North Carolina. Yeah. So as soon as I got done with the last FreeShow Friday, which was 2 weeks ago, I hit the road and drove to North Carolina with Michael Bird. He's on, and we got to Leighton is in the UK. That's cool. Welcome, Leighton. We got to do some presentations about FreeShow at a conference called Renewing Worship, which is a great time, and we got to talk with some cool folks that were worship leaders and things along that line, and really, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff in terms of what they like to do. A lot of people were in choirs. A lot of them were in praise teams. And then there were a few that were media team leaders and volunteers, and they got to join me in the FreeShow workshop. It was more like a lab where we got to really let them dive into it because most of them were coming from programs like Proclaim, Pro Presenter, Easy Worship. And there was one more, I cannot remember what it was that I heard that was kind of new to me. And then they were using things like vMix. Some of them were using OBS, but most of them were not. Some were just using PowerPoint, right? And so it was a really cool conversation, really cool discussion to connect with them and understand some of their needs. And they got to play around and learn about FreeShow. And they got to come up and answer their own questions, which was really cool. Let's see here. Layton says he's just preparing FreeShow to be used in his church. That's what's up. I'm excited for you, my man. How long have you had it, or how long have you been using it in terms of testing it out and all that good stuff? Let me know. Let me know. So as we get started here, let me see if I can share my screen here. I'm not sure if it's going to, there we go. It's doing what we want. Perfect. All right. So let's recap real quick what it is that we have done so far this week. And I'm running into, oh, that's the issue. Let me fix something. I did not turn on my my live stream in FreeShow. I was doing some testing on some other stuff in FreeShow, and I forgot to activate my output for my overlays. So that's why my countdown timer wasn't showing up earlier. This is some of the stuff we got to remember when we talk about doing a live stream. So let me turn that on. And NDI is on there. And we'll turn that on there. And voila. All right, let's see here. There we go. Now that says free show features. This is really about live streaming, so we'll fix that too. Yeah, I've been getting situated in a new opportunity, a new position that I've taken on. And so if you see behind me, the setup is a little different. I got a workstation back there behind me that I'll plan to do some syncing up and having that be kind of the background for what we do here too. So it'll be fun to intermingle that and kind of show some of the assets and functionality of Free Show as we do. So thank you, dear. All right, so let's do that first. Update that. And that should update. All right, I'm just updating my stuff here, making sure it's good. Now it says live streaming, but let me update this here. Hold on. All right, there we go. All right, so when it comes to what we've done this week so far, let's recap. We were able to release a few videos this week. Let's see here. Leighton says he's currently using Zion Works. Don't know if you have ever heard of that one. I have not. And so you've been checking out Free Show since July, which is really cool. But yeah, Zion Works. Never heard of it. I have to check that out. So this week, you all, if you have not got to, make sure to check out the videos that came out. I'm releasing one right after Free Show Friday today at 1 p.m. Eastern time about circle mask. And it's all about how to, what we call, I think, what did Brian call it? Little Gary, Tiny Gary, with the little circle where you can see my head on different things. And so kind of like what it is down here in the corner right now where I'm at. So yeah, so that's going to be releasing. But we also talked about 4 ways to change your backgrounds. I was getting a lot of questions about changing backgrounds in Free Show. And so I wanted to make a quick video to help people understand ways that they can update their background and some of the features and facets of that. Because when you think about it, there are a number of ways to do it. Just like any great program, there are probably 4 or 5 ways to do everything. And so I wanted to go through a few of those ways with that. And then also finding verses fast. There were a number of questions that were coming up about searching for scriptures. And someone just asked a question this morning I forgot to include in there about if you were searching for a phrase in scripture, right? If you're searching for a phrase in scripture, there's a way to do that. And I'll show you guys now. If you go to the scripture tab and you hit this little icon at the bottom right, you can search phrases of the Bible. So what version? I'm in the New Living Translation. I don't know if it'll show up. It's looking in Genesis 1. I don't want to look in Genesis 1. If I type in King, so it'll pull up all the verses with King. I think transformed is in there. If I'm spelling it right. There we go. Okay. And so if you do a search for a phrase in that version of the Bible, that's the most important thing, is making sure that it is in that version of the Bible. And so you'll see the word transformed in all of these, and you can see it. You can hover over to see if it's the full scripture that you want. And all I'm doing is just hovering over it, and you'll see it pop up and kind of give you that understanding of what you're looking at there. Now, for what we need it for, that's very, very unique in terms of making sure it's the version of the Bible. So if you're in King James Version, there might be some easier to search for things because those are probably more common. New Living Translation, not as common. English Standard Version may not be as common, but NIV and all those different versions may be more. So you got to be mindful of that, making sure that you're using the exact language that's used. But that search feature is the way that I would recommend you do it. All right. And so that's just hidden down here at the bottom right of the scripture tab. Now, if you're searching for an actual chapter, book or book chapter and verse, you can just go up here to the right in the drawer here, and it'll automatically pull it up for you as long as you're in the scripture tab. All right, which is a really cool feature. Really cool feature. Steve, Little Gary. Okay, thanks. I'm Little Gary. That's funny because that was my nickname. My dad was Big Gary, and I was Little Gary growing up. So I'm used to that. I'm used to that. All right. Let's go back to. So we talked about finding scriptures, and then the circle mask. We'll come to that. And then over the last couple of weeks, there've been a couple of videos that we didn't get to talk about, but this one is all the features you forgot in FreeShow. And the idea behind this one was if you go to the FreeShow website and you go to features, there's a whole list of features here. And I went through every single one of those to kind of give you all an understanding of what made some of you choose FreeShow over Pro Presenter, Easy Worship, Video Psalm, Open LP, or even Proclaim. And one of the main reasons is it's free, obviously. And there are a couple that are here. Open LP was one that I used to use. It's completely free. And then Video Psalm is free. I've never used Video Psalm though. And then you'll see all these little red X's, and they're on each of these different other options that you'll find. Now, if the red X doesn't mean anything to you, then don't worry about it. But if it is something that you were interested in making sure was available, like being able to mirror your screen and share that, is easy to do in FreeShow. Okay. Let's see, you're setting your theme. Maybe you want to customize the way that your FreeShow interface looks. You want to make it be the theme colors of your ministry, or maybe you want it to be completely dark and not too bright because you're right there in the main sanctuary and you don't want to be distracting. This feature is really cool. All right. And everybody doesn't have it. You can see here, FreeShow is green all the way across the board. Multiple languages or cloud sync. Those things are important. Grouping your slides. Those things are important for some of us. And this is where FreeShow really shines. And so what I did in that video was we made a list of all those features. And then I just went through them one by one and show why and how those work, because sometimes we may have been drawn to it, but we didn't maybe even figure out how to make that feature work. And so I want to make sure you all are comfortable understanding all those features. And then for the last 10 months, I've been making videos. I've been making videos about all kinds of other stuff that's not even listed on that website page. And so there's a lot more than what meets the eye with FreeShow, and that's something that's really cool. And then the top 10 new features. This one's really fun because it talks about some of the things that have been updated just over the last several months. And then the things that I like, these are my favorite features. And I invited you all to share some of your favorite features. So check that out. Let me know which ones you like that I may have mentioned, or ones that I didn't mention. Let me know. And then the same way with the features here, let me know which ones you like to use and are most important to you. Now, with that being said, let's check out FreeShow. Let's see if there are any new downloads. I don't think there are. I've got version 1.5.0. And if we go here to say see all releases, you can see if there are any betas. Now, some of you all are really keen and interested in seeing the betas and using those. If you are, you can go into your FreeShow settings. And in FreeShow, you can go up to the top right where your settings are. And you can go over to, I believe is it other or general? Yeah, other. And you can turn on this option that says alert when a new beta version is available. Now it won't automatically download it, but it'll alert you when you get a new beta version that has been released. And then the same way, alert when a new update. So a full version that's not a beta, be alerted when that happens as well. You can do that by going into the FreeShow settings and going to the other tab or other section, and you can select that to notify you. That's how I'm usually made aware of when there's a new beta that comes out. And then I can go and check out and look at the details of it on this page here and look and see what I would like to, if I want to download it or use it or whatnot. You can scroll down, you'll see there was a beta 4 for 1.5 before the full version came out. And it talks about some of the things that were updated on it. All right. Now, fun thing for me, there's been a challenge this week. I've got another computer that had to be updated to the latest Apple. What's the latest Mac OS? I cannot remember. Let me see. Is it Tahoe? Let me see. Yeah, the latest one I believe is Tahoe. It's kind of got that liquid glass looking feel. And what I've noticed is it may just be because of the computer that I'm using. I'm not sure. It's a M1 Pro, but it's a 14-inch um, M1 Pro. And so I don't know. I've never used one of those before. I've always used the 16-inch, and then I've used a regular M1 MacBook Air, and I like both of them. They all are good, but this does not run FreeShow as well as I would like, as in terms of the functionality of it. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, let's talk more about FreeShow, and I'm going to clear myself out of here, and let's go into some of the things that we plan to talk about when it comes to live streaming. So in the chat, let me know if you do a live stream of your service. Most of you all are using FreeShow for your ministry. Some of you all may be using it for business. Let me know if you use live streaming functionality, not necessarily with FreeShow itself, but just do you live stream your services? Okay. And if you do, let me know. Do you intermingle anything from FreeShow? I'm curious. Let's see here. We got Malvin Miner on. He says, how's it going, Gary? When editing slides and shows, why does the edit being made change on the template and not the actual slideshow? Is it due to not having a display set up? Let's go into some Q&A. That's a good question, Malvin. I am not sure. Let's see what you are talking about here and making sure that we're on the same page of what you're looking at. So when I think about what you described, you said when editing slides and shows, why does the edit being made change on the template and not the actual slideshow? And so I think there may be some confusion about where you're editing. Okay, so let's go into, I'm gonna go into just a training service, not that one. Oh, by the way, somebody asked about where I got these Bible Project videos, the cartoons and things like that. I believe it's just called bibleproject.org.com or something like that. Let me double check that. It was in one of the most recent videos, I think. Bible Project. And I've talked about this many times. So for those who are new, it can be helpful and useful. But here's where it is. If you go to bibleproject.com, and there's a downloads page. And in here, all you'll do is, and so you can just go to bibleprojects.com and then you'll find the downloads. I don't even know how. Let's see if I hit more. Is it in there? Yeah, you can find it in the downloads there. And what it does is it gives you access to all these Old Testament videos, and you can just download them, right? So I can click on that and it just downloads. It just automatically starts downloading the video. And it even has posters with it. They got New Testament videos. They got biblical themes. They've got insights. All the videos they've made, I believe, are just in here. And so the Streetlight Remix, I don't even know what that one is. I may not have that one. The Deuterocanon and the Apocrypha, that's in there. The Torah, the wisdom books, Luke and Acts. So if you're looking for some fun cartoons, feel free to check them out there. Very cool stuff. Very cool. All right. That's bibleproject.com if you're looking for those. All right. Let me go back. Let's see. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. And let's see here. Mark Smith says he's getting ready to live stream. And then Steve says you asked us to let you know. We live stream to Facebook and YouTube via YOLOcast and OBS. And I hope to use NDI to send FreeShow slides on the live stream. I love it. I love it. And you'd email me about that as well, Steve. So I love that. I'm going to go to just a generic training. This is a crazy project. This is more slides or more shows than you'll probably ever have in a service, unless they're really short shows. You might have something like that. But let's see here. Malvin asked about why is it that when editing slides and shows that it changes on the template but not on the actual show? Let's talk about that real quick. So let's talk about, first of all, how to edit a show or a slide. All right, so let's go to this song, Shackles by Mary Mary. If I want to edit this show, there's a couple different ways I can do it. I can go down here and I can change the slide view. And this one is, let's see, edit big bold. That's the template. So you can change your template if you want to, but I can click this and I can see here, I can actually change the text. So you can edit the text. But if you go up to the edit option up here in the middle, right? I call it the big three, right in the middle of Free Show at the top. And I got my stuff clear. Let me clear the overlay real quick so you guys can see what I'm doing here. All right. And so if you go up here right at the top at the in the edit page, or the three options here, you see the edit page. And this allows you to do more than just change the text. This allows you to adjust the boldness, the size of the font, the look of the outline and the background, and everything about each individual slide. All right. Now, these changes will reflect. So if I go back to my show, let's see what this is going to do here. If I select that. All right. So this is what the audience is going to see. Okay. They're going to see this. They're going to see the little transparent box with it. All right. Now, if I go to the edit, and let's say I don't want that transparent box to be there, I can go to item and I can select this background color, and I can select and change this opacity, and I can bring that down to nothing. All right. And it's at 1 right now, or I can just make it be none. Okay. So now there's 0 opacity. If I go back to the show, now in here, you can see the preview on the left of your edit text area. I can see that there's no background on this. If I select it again, you'll see that now the audience doesn't see that black box. So I just edited my slide that is a part of a show, and it's there, it's updated. And if I go to the next one though, it does have the black box. Go back to this one, no black box. All right. So you'll be able to see those changes happen when you make those edits. And to do that, I opened up a show, or I went to a show by just selecting it on the side here. And then I went to edit. You can do it the same way. If you go to a show from down there, you can select it and it'll pop up in the middle, and then you can select edit and you can edit that individual show. Those changes are saved to that show. However, this particular show also has a template. All right. And so if I change my view again, let's see if I go back. Let's see here. I don't see the template option anymore. But if I were to go back to my templates over here and I scroll through, what I would be looking for is a blue box around my template. And so I don't know if I have, let's see, I'm gonna go to all of my templates. And I don't know which template I use for this. It's been some time. I may have deleted it, but it still saved it in terms of what it's doing. I'm just scrolling through just to make sure I didn't overlook it. And I've got a load of them, so don't worry about that. You won't have that many, but it looks kind of like this, but this one's for scripture, which is great. And that's it. So if I go back to my template, I'm gonna scroll up to my songs. I'll go back over here to songs. All right. And it looked like it was probably this big and bold. So if I go to big bold and I just select that, notice that that transparent box came back on the show for that particular slide, and all the rest of the slides that already had it, right? So it didn't change much on everything else, but I edited this one. Now, if I don't want this template to have that background, I can right click on the template and I can edit it. Okay. And I can change that to say item, and I've got the box selected. I can go in here and select the color. And now in your color area, you also have the opacity. So I can make it be darker. So I'm gonna make it be darker there. All right. So now I can go back to my show. And now notice that everything in this show got darker. The audience didn't see that change yet. Okay. Because I have not selected another slide since I made that change. I could hit this refresh icon, but I can also just go to the next slide. And all of a sudden, everything's just a little bit darker in terms of my background because I edited that template. All right. So they both are different. Your templates, when you make changes to them, they will affect all your shows that have that template. But your show allows you to edit as well individual slides that are on the show. So I can edit any one of these if I want to by going up to the edit, but they all do have a template tied to them. I can change the slide individually from what the template has. As long as I don't hit the template icon or template again at the bottom, this show will maintain the changes that I make with it. All right. So Malvin, with your question, the reason why I was a little bit confused is because that functionality is kind of mixed in what you described. So yes, you can edit templates, and yes, you can edit shows, but you can edit them separately. So they do show up, because your question was, when editing slides and shows, why does the edit being made change on the template and not the actual slide? It could be that you are just editing the template. All right, that's what I want to make sure is clear. It could be that you're just editing your template, and then you did not update the actual slide to see that change, but it should show up if that particular show has that template. And it shouldn't have anything to do with you not having a display set up, because let me show why that's the case. If we are showing up in here again, if I go back into FreeShow, let me see if I can show my, okay. And that's showing the actual primary. Let me see if I can do a share. All right. So if you are in your FreeShow program and you want to display something. So for me, I can disable all of these. And let's see here. I can turn that one off, turn that one off. And you can't turn all of them off. So you'll have some preview going on and everything still will work as is. Okay. But so it's not based on whether or not you have an output, basically, is what I want to make sure it's clear to you. That's not the differentiating factor. It's a matter of what are you changing and where are you changing it at, right? So if you're changing it a template, then that change is going to reflect on every show that has that template. If you're changing an individual show, then that show needs to be edited. If you're changing the fastest of way it looks up here in the edit page. If you're just changing the lyrics are going to be something that are tied to the show. The lyrics are not tied to your template, okay? Changing lyrics on the template does not work well. They don't carry over, okay? So that might be what you're doing, is if you're going into your templates and you're trying to type your text in the template, it will never show up on the show, okay? Because all the text here, this says big bold. When I select it, it doesn't make my slideshow say big bold. It makes my slideshow show the text that's part of the slideshow. This is just giving me an idea, a visual of what my text is going to look like with that template. Like even this one is when I just dragged it down here and it has some text in it. If I select it, this text is not going to go into my show. So if I select this, it didn't make it say, oh, I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like. It just changed the way it looks. So the template only changes the look. It does not change the actual text. Okay, it does not change the content of the text. Okay, it just changes what the text looks like, maybe what the background of the text looks like, but your template will never change what your text is. Like this one says default. When I select it, it just changes the way my text looks. It does not make my text in my show say default. And I wonder if that's where some of the confusion may have been from your end. Okay. So let's talk more about live streams. All right. So as you all know, I'm live streaming with you all right now. And I use FreeShow to show my overlays. So I use FreeShow to do stuff like this, okay, to show my titles. You might do something like that in your ministry. And the question you might have is, well, how did you do that, Gary? Let's talk about how I show those particular titles, all right? And I'll pop up little Gary down here at the bottom. And so the way that works, it's literally just an overlay. And I love overlays because in FreeShow, you have a lot of flexibility to make your overlays. And maybe it's because I've been using FreeShow for so long, but they just make sense the way that you can use them. And then bringing those into OBS is really simple and really easy. So let's talk about some of the things you need to make sure to understand. All right. So in order for your overlays to work, you have to have an output for your for FreeShow. And what I've done is I've designated a separate output here called live to, and it's called training, live to training. And let's look and see what that output includes. So if we right click on it and go to edit, you'll notice that it is enabled. So you need to enable it. Okay. Now that does not mean it has to go out to an actual projector or TV, because I don't do that at all. I actually send everything wirelessly. And so let's look at how I do that. Right now, the output screen is set to 1920 by 1080. But if you click that, you'll notice there's no actual screen that you can see here. There's no output tied to my computer with an HDMI cord that is going to. And there's a very clear and simple reason for that. It's because I've made it an invisible window. Okay. If you want to send something to OBS to your computer that you currently have or another computer that's on the same network, you can use NDI by activating or enabling NDI. and then just make your window invisible. And what that means is it is not tied to an HDMI output. Okay, that's all it means. And then what I like to do is I like to use the transparent option when it comes to my OBS connected NDI stream, whatever you want to call this. But my live stream training, I always make it be transparent, and that's what these little squares represent that you can see there. Okay. Now the reason I do that is because I'll play my video in OBS, and so let me pull up. I'm gonna pull this to here. And so you can see here, this is my video, for example, and I've got like bars on the side of my video just because of the way my camera records. I your camera set to where it records in that aspect ratio. So I wanted to make sure some background items are on the side there, but that is not something you have to do. Your camera will probably be recording in 16:9. Mine is not set to do that. It can do that. I just don't set it that way. All right. Now I'm going to share OBS as best I can. It may look funky, so forgive me if it does, but the transparent, let me close this out real quick. We don't need that anymore. All right. And so for the transparency, the reason why I do transparent, as you guys saw, you can see that that overlay shows up. Okay. Let's do a screen share here. And this is where it gets funky, so forgive me. But in OBS, you have layers. Okay. And so I've got my top screen. That's actually what is being shared. That's my monitor that's here. And I set that up in OBS. If I right click on that and, or actually not even right click, if you hit the plus sign down here under your sources, you'll be able to add a source. And what I did is I selected an option that was a, let's see here, a Mac OS screen capture. And what that is just one of my screens. Okay, I've only got my laptop screen and I've got this screen. I've actually got this screen back here connected as well. But I picked this particular screen. And if you right click on this and go to properties, you'll be able to see the display. So the method is display capture. Okay. You can do a window capture or an application capture. So if you want to choose a specific window or application, you can do that. I've got mine set to where it's just sharing my whole display. Okay. In terms of my whole screen. And then you can pick the screen, the display that you want. And I've got the LG, which is behind me. I've got my built-in Retina, which is my laptop screen. And then I've got this CB2, it's basically an Acer display. Okay. And so those are all there. Let me close this out. All right. And so that's how I've got my screen sharing going on. Okay. And that's in OBS. Now, on top of that, you'll see FS live stream. This is my FreeShow live stream. This is where you can get those overlays to show up and to go away, right? So I can click on let me pull up my title again. So that's my overlay. But if I want to mute this particular layer, I can hit this little eyeball and you'll see it goes away. Okay. That eyeball is basically like a mute for your feed. So it's mute and unmute or visible and invisible. Okay. And then I've got the circle camera. That's little Gary there. I can turn that on and off. So it's just 4 different things. This is actually a MacBook screen. I don't need that one for this. And so I don't even use that. So I would probably select that and we'll delete it just for simplicity's sake. And it asks you if you want to delete it. I'll say yes. So I've just got 3 layers here. Now, if we were doing a video feed of OBS, it would be similar, but this down here, this says top screen, it would be a video capture card, right? So my capture cards, I just named it GH5 because that's the camera that I'm using. So it would say GH5 and it would still say FreeShow live stream. And that's pretty much it. And everything that I show in FreeShow from that output, right? From my FreeShow output, this my live training through NDI, okay? It'll show up over the top. And now going back to FreeShow live stream, the way that works is if you right click on this and you can see the properties, what I did was I added an NDI and then I selected Gary's MacBook Pro and it gives me my local name. And then I've also got the primary as well. So I can put the primary in because that's actually being, it's enabled as an NDI as well. And then I've also got my Live 2 training. I selected the Live 2 training and that's what it shows you a preview of it here. It's actually the just the title there. If I select the primary, you'll see that it shows up that way. And that's what'll be there. And it'll be over the top of all of my video if I have my GH5 down here. All right. Let's go back. All right, so let's go to OK, and I'm gonna come back into FreeShow. So for your FreeShow settings, when you are setting up your FreeShow to be an overlay, okay, on OBS, I always recommend that you turn on a transparent background, and then I would make it an invisible window because you're not sending it to a real screen. Those things are important, okay? Now, what happens next is going to be important with the style that you use. So right now I'm using the stream training. If I were to look at that and just edit it, I'll let you guys see. Only thing I have active on it is overlays. But if you wanted to show lyrics, which a lot of you all are going to do, you want to show your lyrics, you would also turn on your slide. All right. So if I turn on my slide, you'll see that my lyrics show up. And let me pull this. I'm going to go to this view real quick just so I can switch my screen out. But you can see my the lyrics right over the top of me down here at the bottom, right? That's because I activated it, and that's what you would typically have for yours. And then when you want to go back and you want to maybe not show those lyrics, you can go into that particular, you can right click on this and select edit, and then go to that particular style and change it, or just change the style to where you have one that has the slide in overlays, and then you have one that just has the overlays. Completely up to you. But I think for most of you all, you want to have both of these on. For me doing a video like this, I don't usually need the lyrics because I'm not sharing songs or scriptures with you all as much as I'm just sharing and making an overlay, right? There are some ways to work around that. You can make a template that has position your content in that way. That's totally up to you. That's another workaround. But you would definitely need to have a separate live stream setup. All right. Let me see if there's any questions that have come up so far. I don't see any questions yet. What questions do you guys have so far? Let's see here. Someone said, what are your OBS video settings? So let's talk about OBS video settings. That's a very good question. I don't know if OBS is going to let me show you guys that, but let me see. And so for my computer, you guys know I got a 16-inch MacBook Pro. M1 Pro. That's the most important thing. The processor is the M1 Pro processor. And so these settings for me are important for YouTube for the way that I do, because that's all I use. I just use OBS to stream straight to YouTube. For some of you all, you might need something like YOLOcast that allows you to stream to multiple platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and whatever else that you need to. But for me, I just stream straight to YouTube using OBS. I've got a direct hardwire line connected to my laptop. My router's right here, so I got it all connected, hardwired. And so I stream at, let me see if I can go to my settings here. For output, you can see my streaming is set to 15 megs per second, or 15,000 kilobits per second. All right. And basically that allows me to stream in 4K, okay, at a decent clip. All right. And then my video encoder, since I'm using my MacBook Pro 16, which my 14-inch that's right here behind me, it doesn't have the HEVC encoder. And the HEVC, basically it's a high efficiency video encoder. And what it does is it actually it doesn't take as much data to send a higher quality signal. Okay. It's just more efficient. You have other options here like the H.264, but if you're using YOLOcast, they require you use the software X264, okay, for your computer. And that's something that's going to be more reliant on your, I believe your CPU, instead of if you have a dedicated graphic processing card, okay, which is your GPU. All right. And then let's see here for other parts of my video setup. I do recording, but I just record. Same thing, hardware, Apple, HEVC. I use fragmented MOV basically to make sure that it does not interrupt or corrupt the file, even if it stops recording on accident for some reason, which it never does. But if it did, that would be something to keep in mind. And if I go to video here, you'll see, as I told you guys, I like to stream in 4K. And so I've got mine set to 3840 by 2160, which is still a 16:9 aspect ratio. So everything I do in FreeShow is still looked at as HD, but it'll come in here and it'll be converted and scaled to fit a 4K timeline or 4K canvas. So my base resolution is 3840 by 2160, which is 4K, and then the output resolution is 3840 by 2160 as well. All right, and then for audio, let's see here. Audio and OBS is kind of fun. So this is what we want to talk about anyway, is I want you all to understand that your output for video, let me go back. Let's go back. For your output for streaming, you can have this be as low as like, I don't know, 5,000 kilobits per second. So 1/3 of what I'm using. And if you're just streaming in HD, that should be adequate and more than enough. What you want to pay attention to is what does your internet provider support when it comes to upload. Most of us are well aware of what our download speed is, but we're not as aware of what our upload speed is. When you're streaming, your upload is the most important thing that you need to consider. So for me, I've got Xfinity, and I don't remember what my upload is. I think it may be somewhere around 100 megs or something like that. I'm not sure. But let's say you had like Google Fiber here in America. Google has an internet service. Theirs is 1 gig up and 1 gig down. So it's literally consistent across the board. And some of you all where you live, it may be something similar, but that bit rate that you have for upload is really going to be your bottleneck. And for me, I don't have that limitation. I think I get about 175 up and about 400 down on average, but I'm hardwired. So that's another thing. When you're doing your live stream, make sure you are hardwired into your network. Okay, that's going to give you more stability. It's going to keep your signal consistent. Some of you are maybe trying to do it through Wi-Fi, and you're going to notice that it's going to ebb and flow a lot more than if it were hardwired. All right, so keep that in mind when it comes to your live stream setup. Okay. So those are my video settings, but I want to talk about audio too, because audio is just as important, if not more important than video when it comes to your live stream. And this is one that I think a lot of ministries that I've worked in, they get confused at this part of the process. Okay. And so let's talk more about this. So desktop audio is disabled. You don't necessarily need to share anything from your desktop unless you're trying to play some type of video that's on your computer, but that's where FreeShow comes in. I would play all your videos through FreeShow, and you don't have to worry about your desktop audio. And they got I got options 1 and 2, and then I got my mic auxiliary audio. And this one is tied to my capture card. So my capture card is read in here as a USB 3, all right? Digital audio, and that's coming from my camera into my computer with a capture card or an HDMI capture card, okay? Now, for you, I would recommend you do something like that to where your audio, for simplicity's sake, I would recommend it comes directly through your camera from your soundboard. And that's what I've got. I've got a soundboard over here, and then I've got an XLR cable connected to my camera, and the audio is coming out of my camera into my capture card, and the capture card is connected to my computer. And I've told OBS, take the audio from my camera through the capture card, and that's my capture card. If I hit this drop down, you'll see all kinds of other options here. I could record the audio from my iPhone if I wanted to, because I've got the same account. My MacBook Pro microphone if I wanted to. And then some virtual ones. I got a VB cable A and VB cable B, which are just virtual cables that I use for if I want to record something off my computer or something like that. Those are really helpful. But this is my capture card. Okay, that's what you want to use for your audio signal. That means that your mix coming out of your soundboard needs to be able to be clean to come out and into your camera, and then out of your camera into your computer. The way I always recommend that for most soundboard, you would do some type of auxiliary mix. Mine's is a digital soundboard, like a small one. It's not super big. Let me see if I can show you guys what it looks like real quick. Hold on. Let's go here, and we will clear out these lyrics, and I will show you guys my soundboard over here. All right, so here it is here. So this is my soundboard that I'm using, and this is a Zoom. I don't even know what it's called. Zoom L8, I believe is what it's called. Zoom L8, and it looks intimidating, but it's simple once you understand what it is. I've only got one microphone plugged up to it. That's me right there, and it's got actually I got two mics plugged up to it. I don't even know where that other one is going. I think I was doing some testing, but this top one up here, that's the one that I'm using, and it's going down and it's coming. So then my auxiliary, I don't have auxiliary. I just got my mains coming out of this thing. So my main audio is coming out right here. It's coming through an XLR cable. I just got it split out to where left and right are coming into one cable, and that goes around my desk and it comes up into my camera here. There's that orange cord, and that orange cord is over here as well, right there, coming out of my soundboard. Okay, and so that orange cable is connected to my camera, and then from my camera, I've got HDMI cable coming out of here. That's just an adapter to kind of make it point down so it's not blocking my screen. It's coming down and into a capture card. And there's my capture card. There's a little 4K. It probably cost me, it may have cost about $20, $25. I can't remember. And that is connected to my computer. And so it's connected to my computer in that way. And yeah, that's how it works. So hopefully hopefully you guys saw that. I don't think you guys saw that. Let me see. Let me, it was showing up here. Let me do it again. Let me see. Let me make it be primary. All right. All right, you guys should be able to see that now. All right, so there's my one input. This is my microphone that I'm using right now. Everything else is muted, as you can see. And then I've got my microphone here is connected to this particular microphone that you guys see me use all the time. That's an extreme close up. All right. This is the Zoom L8. And then I've got the output of it. I'm using my main output because I don't have anything else. I'm not connected to any speakers or anything. So I've got that connected to, those are splitting out into, or being condensed into one. And then it goes into this orange XLR cable that is connected to my computer over here. All right, or not to my computer, my camera. And my camera is just a GH5, and it is spinning out an HDMI signal over here that you can see there. And then that goes into my capture card down there, and that's connected to my computer. All right. And so hopefully that makes sense as to my setup. Okay. So audio wise, the reason I said all that was because when it comes to your audio, let me go back and turn off my camera here. When it comes to your audio in OBS, it's important to understand. Let's do full share, go back to my settings. It's important to understand how you're getting your audio. So for you all, you might be having an auxiliary that's coming out of your soundboard, and that's going into a camera. The reason why I say go to a camera, because what it does is it syncs up your audio automatically for you. Okay, it syncs it up to where the audio and the video are connected, and they're coming into OBS. And so your camera would be your USB 3 camera. Your audio would be, for me, my USB 3 digital audio. Okay, they're all the same, and then I make that be there. And when I do that, it automatically brings that into my audio mixer here. And so my mic auxiliary is right there, and I've adjusted my audio. It can pull it down or pull it up. But if I go over to these three little dots, you got more options. So OBS is really crazy cool, but it can be confusing because there's so many small features and facets to it that are kind of cool. All right, so if you go to, let's go to filters first. All right, so these are all things up here that are just kind of not necessarily tied to the audio. These are just tied to the way your stuff looks. But this filters option, when you select that, you can see here I have a compressor on, and my compressor actually does some compressing. What a compressor does is it basically makes your audio not too high, not too low, and it makes it all fit into a compressed spacing in the sound spectrum. This is the Gary version of it, and it allows it to be consistent when you send it out. Okay, that's the main thing. So your highs aren't super high and your lows aren't super low. It brings all that together, and then it sends it out. And then I just kind of boosted it up here as with an extra 7 dBs of output gain. All right, so this is a whole thing. Sound is a whole thing when it comes to anything related to ministry or anything like that, specifically for live streaming. So I do boost mines in my compressor. The compressed audio comes out and it's boosted by 7 dBs. This stuff here, I think I pretty much kept it consistent with what was already there. I don't think I changed any of that. So that's the filter that I have here on my audio. For your music and things like that, a compressor may not be that important. It really just depends on how the quality is coming out of your soundboard, what that sounds like. But I've got that on. And then you also have properties. Not much going on here. You just go there and it's just set to your properties of whatever you got. Okay. And that's just my audio setup. And then I've also got advanced audio properties. This one can come in handy. If you notice here, I've got my volume down. That's just slid down here and it's reflected there. But I also have it set to where there's a sync offset delay. And for me, I had to sync my audio with OBS. Even though it's still coming out of my same camera, my camera actually has an audio delay built into it because it just does that through the HDMI cable. And some of them are going to be different, but when I'm sending out video and audio out of my camera, it actually has a delay with the audio, which is something that's just a part of the camera feature. So I had to delay it by about, I think that ends up being about 6 or 7 frames. It's 165 milliseconds, but you divide that out and all this stuff by time and so forth, and it's 165 milliseconds equals about 6 or 7 frames when you're shooting at 30 frames per second. So I delay it that way. All right. And it just allows me, when I record with you guys for my YouTube videos, I do all that through OBS as well. It allows that to be in sync automatically, as opposed to me having to change that sync in post, which is what I've been doing for the last, I just fixed that like last week. So even if you don't have that on, it's not a big deal for a live stream. People really don't hold you too accountable for anything that's out of sync. Too bad. That's too small. But if it's really bad, it can be a problem. Let me see here. Let's see here. Steve says, since FreeShow already natively supports the use of NDI as an output, do I still need to get NDI scan converter from New Tech? I think you might have created a tutorial video about setting up or using NDI. So if you're using OBS, you still need to download the NDI feature of OBS. And let me see if I can share that. If you guys can see that, you should be able to see my settings. And let's see here. This is this thing called Distro NDI settings that you will need to download. All right. And that would be something. It's not necessarily something from NDI, because like you said, FreeShow already has it built in. So you don't have to do anything for that on your computer. It's nice to have if you want to share something else from your computer, but FreeShow already has NDI built in, so you don't have to worry about it there. But OBS does not. You do need to download Distro AV for OBS to receive that NDI signal. Okay. And once you set it up that way, what you'll be able to do is go down to your sources and you can hit the plus sign and you'll see an option that's called NDI source. And when you select that, it'll give you the option to pick an NDI source that you've already got that's existing, or make a new one or select a new one that's not already been in OBS. All right. So yes, you do need to get NDI for OBS, but you don't have to get the New Tech. Go to their website and download all the other stuff if you're using FreeShow with OBS. Okay. Great question, Steve. Big L S305, what's going on? Let's see here. It says, hello. What if you have the audio coming from the mic into the soundboard via USB to a laptop? So you have the audio coming from the mic into the soundboard via USB to a laptop for OBS. Do you need a capture card? So the capture card is important for video. All right. So if you have a camera feed coming into OBS, you're going to need a capture card. All right. Now, say a capture card. Let's describe or discuss a little bit more about what I mean by that. You need a way for your computer to read your camera. Okay. And translate. And basically, a capture card kind of decodes your camera feed. Now, there are other things that do that we don't necessarily call them quote unquote capture cards, but that's what they're doing. Like, for example, an ATEM Mini is a big capture card. Okay. I would consider an ATEM Mini to be a big capture card. And some of you all may have heard of those. Let me grab one real quick. Hold on just a second. I got one in my closet over here. All right. So here's my ATEM. This is an ATEM Mini ISO, ATEM Mini Pro ISO. And the reason why I say it's a capture card is because if you got any device, and let's do this, if you got any device that has a USB and it sends that USB signal to your computer and it's taking in video, then that's what a capture card is going to do. All right. And so it's got a USB output. I can connect that to my computer, and then I can plug my cameras into these ports, these HDMI ports. Some of you all may have an ATEM that has SDI ports. Mine's is one that just has HDMI. And so that's what my cameras use. So it works out perfectly fine for me. And whatever cameras I plug into this, my computer can see them as long as I plug up the USB from here into my computer. All right. So this would serve as a big capture card. All right. You can have a small capture card. I've got one on this computer. Hold on. This big. Okay. There we go. So it's a small little capture card. USB on one end. I got a USB-C computer, so it's got USB-C on one end, and the other end is HDMI. Basically, it's a mini version of what you have here. And I'm looking at my screen to make sure you guys can see it in focus. But this does the same thing as this. This just does it times 4 cameras. All right. It allows you to switch. This one just allows you to take one camera in and that's it. And if you want to plug in 2 of these to your computer from 2 different cameras, you could kind of switch with OBS, but this one makes switching so much easier and seamless because it's designed on the other side. You got all these other buttons to switch between it with the click of a button really easily, which I love. And you also have some audio controls for your cameras that you plug into it. And then you also can determine how fast it fades and all kinds of cool stuff. So this is a more, I'm gonna say user-friendly and professional experience for your volunteers or for yourself if you're trying to connect multiple cameras. All right. So yes, you will need a capture card for video, but you do not need a capture card for audio. With OBS, when we went to those audio settings, if I go back to share, when you go to your audio settings, you can pick whatever audio you have connected to your computer. So I don't have any, my soundboard could connect to my computer through USB. It's just an old soundboard. And so the software for it, it doesn't work really consistently. So I don't ever use it that way, but it is powered through USB right now. I'm actually powering it. I just got it plugged up to my lamp. My lamp has a USB power port. So I've got the USB just to power the device because I can power it through a power bank or through batteries or through USB. Okay. And so, yes, you would just pick that from your list here for your mic auxiliary. You would pick whatever your USB soundboard is. Okay. Some of you all might have a USB microphone, right? So you can use a USB microphone if you're doing something like this, but in a ministry setting, most likely you're going to want to connect the whole soundboard to your computer somehow, whether you're going through your camera or you're going directly from the soundboard, because some soundboards, bigger ones even, will have a USB connection as well. All right. Great question so far. Let's see. Wild All Day. Wild All Day says, can you connect a camera directly to your computer with just USB? You can. Some cameras will have that feature. They're usually going to be the newer cameras that allow you to do it, but the downside of that to me is you got to use usually you got to use some type of additional software from the camera manufacturer for it to read that particular camera on your computer. The good thing about a capture card is you don't need any additional software for this to work. You just plug it up and it just works. It's just a plug and play. Your camera thinks you're just sending this signal out to a monitor or something like that, and the computer reads it as, oh, you've plugged up a camera, and I'll just read it because it's doing all the conversion in here for it to become digital, a digital signal. So I would say a capture card is better than directly connecting the camera, but it just depends on the camera. So if you got like a PTZ camera, totally different. Some PTZ cameras will allow you to connect directly through USB. Those are pretty cool. Others will require you to you might still need to connect to a switcher, right, through HDMI. And the PTZ usually some of them are going to be powered through Ethernet. So the Ethernet is powering it and allowing you to control it, but it may not send the video signal the way that you want in terms of clean and succinct and all that kind of stuff. And so that's the other part of this, is that it's weird to say, but the the more you can do things hardwired, the more, right now at least, the more reliable it's going to be. And I'm saying that right now in 2025. 5 years from now, 2 years from now, that may be different, where our technology for wireless transmission is so much better at that point. But right now, hardwired is going to be the best. So HDMI connections are going to be really cool for you, because they're just going to be more reliable than a wireless connection. They're not dependent on your network. They're hardwired connected. So just more stability that way. If you can do it, I would do it that way. Some of you all's cameras are really far from your media booth. And in those situations, you can still buy a long HDMI cable. They do cost money. Obviously, they can cost upwards of $100 if you want to get like a 100-foot cable or something like that, or even a 50-foot cable might be somewhere around there. But what you'll end up finding is those cables that are that long, that are HDMI, they only run one way. Okay, this is important to understand. Those cables are designed to run one way, and that's how they can keep their transmission strong enough to go that far. Okay, they don't, most HDMI cables, you don't really care which end you plug into which end. Like I've got one here. It's just two ends. They just plug in. It doesn't matter which side I plug. This doesn't matter if it's on the camera side or if this is on the computer side or vice versa. It's just the HDMI cable. But when you buy a long HDMI cable, it's going to be an optical cable. And so one end of it is literally going to be labeled as the source. And this is what the end you need to plug your camera into, is the source end. And then the other end is going to be labeled, I forget what it's going to be called, but you guys can tell me if you know, but it'll be labeled the other piece, I don't know, what's the opposite of a source? The receiving end? I don't know. But one end is going to be the source. That's the side you got to make sure you run, because it's going to be long. So make sure you get that right, because I've been in some churches that have set it up. I don't run cables and things like that for ministries. I'm the consultant that kind of helps them navigate, but they hired an electrician to come in and do some other things, because they needed some new outlets where their TVs were and all that stuff. He ran the cable, but he ran it backwards. We couldn't get the signal. It will not go backwards. So he had to go back in through the wall, pull the cable out, and then run it the other way so that the source was on the right side. Okay. Very important if you're getting those long runs. But shorter HDMI cables, I would say anything up to 50 feet, it can go both ways. It's not going to matter which side you plug in to what end, to the camera or the computer or the switcher or whatnot. Let's see here. Tayel says, I would advise, if you need a long HDMI cable, I would switch to HDMI through Ethernet so I can use a long Ethernet cable. That's a really, really solid solution that a lot of people use, especially in bigger ministries and things like that. That would be a really cool recommendation. I don't work with huge ministries, but if your building is already supported through Ethernet, and you have that, and or if you want to use Ethernet to do that, definitely do that. And all you're doing then is you're going to be using some type of terminator box to connect your HDMI from your camera into that terminator box that turns it into Ethernet. And then you run as long of Ethernet as you want to the other side, right? And then you have another terminating box. I don't know what they're called, but Blackmagic makes them. There's a lot of different manufacturers that make these, that you'll plug the Ethernet port into that. And then the other end of it is a HDMI that you can plug in to wherever you wanted it to come in, to a switcher or to your computer, to a capture card or whatever it is. But that's a great, great way, because that allows you to run it, 300 or 400 feet, wherever you need to, pretty easy and simple. And that Ethernet cable doesn't lose, it doesn't degrade the signal like a HDMI cable will. So that's a very good point. Thanks, Tayel, for bringing that up. Did I miss any other questions? Let's see here. So is it best to have audio sync with the camera and audio like you have with PTZ, or adjust the audio via OBS, in the settings? So, and what's going on, Claude? I see you. What's going on, my man? Big L says, so is it best to have audio? And I think I just missed this question, so forgive me. Is it best to have audio synced with the camera and audio like you have with PTZ, or adjust the audio via OBS in settings? It's literally up to your comfort level, right? So what you just described are two different ways. So you can literally run your audio through your camera, like I just showed you guys, I've got set up right here, or you can run it directly to your computer. Okay. You just have to manage that the offset is what it's called in OBS. It's called the offset syncing, and that's something that's inevitable when you have video and audio from different sources. Your switchers will support that as well. So this switcher here has microphone cables. You can run your audio to here and then have your videos being connected to HDMI back here as well. And you can do some offsetting even in the software of the ATEM to make those sync up if they're a little bit out of sync as well. And you can do it, I think it does it by frames in the software for the ATEM, I believe. So you can offset that as well as needed. So yes, to both. It's really just depending on your comfort level. If you want it to be as simple as possible, run everything through your camera, audio and video, and then just connect your camera to your sound card or your capture card or your switcher, and then just turn it on. So on your ATEMs, all your ATEMs are going to have an option that just says on or off right above 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's asking, do you want the audio to be on or off? And you can turn the audio up and down on these, but on or off means, do you want the audio to come through on this camera? Now you might have 3 different cameras. You only want the audio to be on one of them. Okay. So I always make my main camera be the one that I turn the audio on. So as soon as I plug this up, that one automatically lights up. Everything else goes to off. Okay. On my ATEM, because I don't need audio from every camera. You just need audio from one. So it's consistent and clean. And then every other camera, as you switch between them, they're still going to hear that same audio from camera one. You just showing a different video. Okay. Let me see if I missed anything else here. Let's see here. USB. Okay. I think I got everybody. Can you connect a camera directly to your computer? We talked about that. Could you show how to add oh, here we go. So Malvin Miner says, could you show how to add lower third countdown on top of video, i.e. pre-service announcement video with service start time countdown overlay? All right. Great question, Malvin. And so this is where FreeShow is so powerful and so cool. So let's talk about that real quick. Let me go into FreeShow. And you all should be able to see that. Let me pull this back down so I can make it out the way for me. Hold on. I want to make sure I can see what you guys see. All right, pull that out the way. All right, now the question was, how do we basically create these overlays to be like a timer or whatever we want them to be from FreeShow into OBS? So I'm gonna clear out my overlay so you can see everything that I'm doing, because that was my overlay with just a title and a date, and those are dynamic values, which is really cool too. We'll talk about that if we got time. But I'm just gonna make a timer. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to make your timer. So you go to your functions and you make your timer, and you would go down to the timer options, and I'm gonna close that. So you got actions, timers, variables, triggers. Click on timers, and then just say new timer. I got a bunch of them over here, but we're gonna call this one. So from start to end is one timer, or towards a time. All right. Now this one is one that I think is towards a time is just like one of the coolest timers. So I'm going to select that because we're going to use that today. And I'm going to make my time be 1 p.m. And we're going to name this FreeShow Friday end. That's what time FreeShow Friday will end. Okay. And then I can make it overflow if I need to. I don't necessarily want to do that. I don't think you're going to need that for a countdown timer. But for your countdown timers, the reason why I say this is cool, because you can start this anytime you want to. You can start this as soon as you come in the building, and it'll still count down. So if it's 45 minutes, it'll show 45 minutes. Everybody's not going to be there at that time, obviously, but you can make it show up and it's just running. You know, it's one less thing to think about. That's why I like it. So people might not get there till 10 minutes before, but it's showing the whole time and it can play. And I think that's, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You can start your live stream though. 10 minutes, when it gets to 10 minutes, you can start your live stream then. But in FreeShow, you can have this showing up in service or whatever, you know, 45 minutes till service. You know, I think that's pretty cool. All right, so I've got that and we're good here. And it's called, what was it called? FreeShow FSFN. And it goes down here. So at the top here, these are all just general countdowns. These at the bottom are towards a time. And so this one is FSFN and it's there. Now I'm going to create an overlay to show that timer. So I'm gonna go to overlays, and if you wanted to, you can make a category called timers, and I've got one here. So I'm gonna go into my timers category, If you don't already have one, it may be there by default. Actually, I don't know, because I don't think I put that logo in there. So it might be one there by default. I just can't remember. And I'm going to go to new overlay, and we're going to call this FreeShow Friday 1 p.m. timer. Nobody's going to see that except you. And so it's helpful for you to see it because that's what we're going to need later on. All right. So now I've got that, and we need to, this is our blank space. So this is your editing page, just like you would edit a slide or a template. This is the editing page for a overlay. Same idea. And so I'm over on the right side. We got the timers. I'm just going to click timer, and we got a timer here that says 3 p.m. I don't want that one. I want my FreeShow Friday one that I made. And so I can go down near the bottom like it was on the timers tab, and it's FSF end. When I hit that, it shows up there. That's perfect. Now, this is a quick tip. Let me see here. The font. I actually got to talk with Christopher 2 weeks ago when we were in North Carolina. He was there with us, so that was really cool. And I asked him about these fonts, and sometimes how my fonts kind of cut off on the edge. And he was like, the best thing to do is to find a font that does not expand and contract with the text. And so this is one, for example, that does not. Okay, all of them are in the same space. So when you do make your timer small or large, it doesn't overlap or run out of space when the numbers change. And that's important to me. May be important to you. I don't know, but that's something to keep in mind. You might change the size of your font or the type of your font accordingly. Okay, so I'm gonna be my timer right here. Now it's there as an overlay, and it just looks like that with nothing in the background. I want it to have like a little bit of a box behind it. And I want it to be at the bottom because I don't want it to be obtrusive. But for you all, that might be the main thing that's going on. So you can make that be in the middle really big. That's totally up to you. But we're doing this as an overlay, so there's going to probably be video up under it. So for our live stream, we're going to have that same idea. So I'm going to put on the item section, I can go in here and select the background color, and I can make the background color be orange, which is kind of one of my fun colors that I use on my show a lot. And so we'll do that. And then if we go here, we can make the opacity of that orange be a little bit transparent, which is always fun, right? So it's kind of just over the top of everything, but you still can see through it a little bit. I like that. And then I would go to padding because I want it to be rounded. Oh, that doesn't round it. That just makes it shrink down. We don't care about that. I don't care about that. But the corner radius is what I was looking for. So the corner radius, you'll notice there, it makes it a little bit rounded. And I'm going to squeeze this in a little bit to where it's smaller. It's almost going to look like a sports clock, which is kind of cool. And I'm going to bring it back to where it's centered, just dragging it over on the edge. You'll see the little 4-way arrows show up. All right, so now I've got my timer and it's counting down. That's all I want, okay? Now, to activate it, I just click it and it shows up right there. You'll see it on everything that I do. So now if I go to my talking head, you'll see the timer there. Now it's too transparent, so I'm going to make it to where it's not that see-through. That actually doesn't look that great. So I'm going to select it, and we will make it to where it's a little bit easier to see. All right. So we'll do that, and then we'll refresh, and you'll see it there a little bit better. So now when I do my talking head, you guys can still see the timer. That's our countdown for FreeShow Friday. And I might use this real time. I might set a little button or something on my stuff to where that will play throughout the show to just show how much time we've got left as a planned time of the show. If we go over, I'll have to manage that, but my goal is to try to be as succinct as possible with you all to respect your time. And then today, especially because I do have a video scheduled to play to show you guys how to make the circle mask, which is a good follow-up to this, because I'm not going to talk about how to make the circle mask so much in this, more about intermingling FreeShow with OBS, like the questions you all have been asking. And so hopefully that answers the question. Let's see here. Can you show me how to use PowerPoint in FreeShow? This is Bobby Manning. What's going on, Bobby Manning? I'm having problems picking the slide that I want to show. You will have problems doing that. The best way to use PowerPoint with FreeShow is to not use PowerPoint with FreeShow. My recommendation would be if you want to create your slides in PowerPoint. A lot of people do that because they're comfortable and familiar with it, right? So if you're comfortable and familiar using PowerPoint, by all means, feel free to use it. But I would export those out as images, okay? And convert that whole slideshow to a JPEG, okay? To multiple JPEGs. And then bring it into FreeShow as media Okay, you can just drag it, put it in a folder on your computer, and then go to that folder on your computer. So I got this one's media presentations. And I think this one I made on Keynote. Okay, and it would be just images. So I got all these images here, and you can just drag them into a show if you wanted to. So this is an example of what quote unquote is like a PowerPoint. Okay, and this was a discussion or teaching I did about cameras for ministries. All right, now for your question, the reason why I say that is because navigating these is so much easier. If I go to show, and let's see here, if I right click, I can add it to a project. So I'll do add to project, and you'll see here cameras for ministry shows up and it's there. Okay. And so what our audience would see is something like this. Okay. They don't know if it's PowerPoint or not. They just see the image. Okay. Now, the cool thing about this is you can right click on this and you can convert it to a show just in this space, convert that to a show. And now I got this show. Let's see, it didn't bring in the image like I expected it to. It should bring the image in. But let's say we drag this up, drag this one up, and you can select, and bring them in to your show. And now you got your PowerPoint. And what I did with this is I actually did it. I exported it from Keynote. You can do the same thing in PowerPoint, I believe, where it says export each stage. And so now, if I were to go to this show, it would look something like this. The audience would see something like that, and it would show up, and then we'll bring that one in and bring that one in. I got it set to where it's doing this little transition where it's fading in between on my media for some reason, but I don't want it to. So let me see if I can edit this and go to my style. Let me see if my default style does that. Transitions are set to none. Let's see, for media. See, it's set to that fade. I'm gonna turn that off. All right, so now when I go to show, and we go here, it just shows up like it's a PowerPoint with this build out. Now you can do that in FreeShow now where you can make it build out those. So I would recommend building it out, your whole show in FreeShow personally, to keep everything consistent, and it'll keep it in your library easier and all that kind of stuff. So you can edit it a lot easier. But if you've got it in PowerPoint and you like it there, I would export it out in JPEG. You can't edit the JPEG. That's the downside of it. But you can play it really easily if you export out each stage of it. And for me, I just kind of animated. I didn't put a lot of animations and stuff like that. I don't recommend that personally. That's just a personal preference. When you're dealing with big crowds, the simpler it is, the easier, because it can easily become a distraction, and you don't want that. We don't want our slides, our media in any way to be a distraction for anybody. Uh-oh. Man, my bad. Y'all couldn't see none of that. All right, so let's undo all that. My bad. I just now looked at the notes and said switch the view. So what we were talking about was using media, exporting in PowerPoint. So if you've been with me for the last however long I was going, 3 or 4 minutes, I was talking about PowerPoint, and I said export it out as a JPEG image, a set of images. So each slide or your build out of your slides, make that into a JPEG. All right. And so here's what that would look like. So down here, I actually saved this media presentation some time ago. This was months ago, actually probably a year ago. I made it a year ago. I think it's 2024. So if I go here to this folder, it's called Cameras for Ministry, and it's just a bunch of slides. These are all, I don't use PowerPoint, but I use Keynote. So it's kind of like PowerPoint, right? And so what I was saying was you can make a new show. You can drag these in, or you can just make a new show and just drag these images in. So I can drag up, let's see, I can drag this in. The JPEGs that I made in the PowerPoint slide, I made them into JPEGs, and I can bring them in here. My recommendation is still to just make it in FreeShow, because you have the flexibility to edit this. And this is pretty easy to make. Like I said, it's a basic presentation, but that's what I recommend, as I was saying earlier. And you guys didn't get to see it. So I apologize for that. But so what I was doing was showing you guys that I can go through this show, and I've just kind of randomly put some images in there. or slides in there. So this is one. This is one. These are things I've recommended in terms of video cameras and stuff like that. And these are all random slides, so don't worry about the order. And then it shows up. And this is, your audience won't know if you're using PowerPoint or not, but you're using everything in FreeShow. I'm just using my arrow keys to go through the slideshow. And it's there and it's saved in FreeShow, so I can always access it without having to open up another program. That's the benefit to me of everything being in FreeShow. So I know it's not convenient, but it's worth the learning curve. Okay, it's worth using and learning how to use FreeShow to make your slides. Okay, it's definitely worth it because you'll have flexibility to edit each of these. Right now I can't edit any of these, so I can't change this word on the show from Black Magic to I don't know what's another camera manufacturer, to Nikon. Nikon's already on there. So these are just a bunch of different camera manufacturers, but maybe I wanted to put another camera that's new that just came out. I wouldn't be able to add that to this because this is just a JPEG. And technically I could put it in there on top of that, but I wouldn't want to do that personally. So that would be a benefit of using FreeShow to make your slides and to display them, just like you would use PowerPoint to make your slides and edit them. I would make my slides in FreeShow so I can always edit them as needed, and they're stored there and they're pretty easy to use. Hopefully that answers the question. I know it's probably not the answer you wanted, Bobby, but yeah, having problems picking the slides that you want to show is going to come up. And yeah, the best thing is to switch over completely and learn how to use FreeShow to edit your slides. So if I would go here, right click and say new slide, I could go in and edit. Excuse me, and it brought in that background. I don't want that background in there, but that background is there for the actual, it brought those in as background images. So all these right now, they're set to be background images. If I go to my default, I can make it be a foreground image and that would fix that. But the reality is when you're editing your shows, you can always make changes to stuff. That's what I like. So if I go back to this show here, you can go here, you can add your media, your text boxes, your cameras, you can do all kind of cool stuff, clocks and all that stuff, boxes, everything else that you need all in here. And you can edit your, your fonts and all that stuff, which is basically all you would do in PowerPoint anyway. I think the biggest downside that people might find is they don't have all those fancy transitions that they like from PowerPoint. And I get it. That's just a shift to me that, like I said, those fancy transitions, if you watch any live broadcast, you typically won't see that kind of stuff. Those are really made for, I don't know. They're just not made for, more of a professional environment. They're usually for individual or small groups and things like that, which can be fun and cool. But they can also be distracting. Let's see here. Mark Smith says, what's the process to get the show boxes in the project full color and not just outline? What's the process to get the show boxes in the project? I'm thinking about what you're saying, Mark. Make sure I understand. So get the show boxes in the project full color and not just outlined. I'm guessing you're talking about these boxes here. Mark, tell me if that's what you're talking about. You're talking about the sections that I've got here. I just got like a worship section. I've got a countdown slide section, and they got this outline around them. Is that what you mean? Let me know and just say, hey, yeah, that's what I mean, or that's not what I mean about the full project. Let's see here. Okay, so Mark is saying scriptures, worship boxes on the left. So I think you're talking about this stuff. So how do you make this be a full color? That is not an option right now, to believe it or not. That's a good question. So these are your sections, right? So the way you add them is you go down here to this little 3 lines, I guess you could say, at the bottom of your project panel, and you can name a new section. So I can call this new section for now. I'll call it training. All right. Now, the cool thing about that is it's down here, and it used to look like this. It just used to be just a generic line, But if I right click on it now, I can change the color to where it's bolder. So I can just make it be a bright red. And now that section is bright red and everything in it will have the bright red outline around it, but it won't make everything be bright red. So great question. I don't know the best solution for that outside of it just not being available right now, unfortunately. So good question though. Um, what other questions do you guys have about live streaming? Because so we've talked about the audio settings, we talked about the video settings, we've talked about overlays from FreeShow, we talked about the settings in FreeShow to create your style and your output to come into OBS, right? We talked about that needing to be an invisible window with NDI enabled, and then you go into OBS. You got to make sure you download distro AV so you can receive that NDI signal, and then you would, create that. What we didn't talk about though is how to create your scenes and your sources. So let's go into OBS one more time. And let's just break down some things because this is something I'm going to talk about a little bit in the video that comes up right after this in the premiere. But if you look at my my OBS settings, yours may not look like this, okay? Now, for me doing a live stream as a one-man band, this is the perfect way for me to do it. Some of you all might have studio mode activated where you'll see a preview and then an output. Completely up to you. The ministry I was a part of, I would do that a lot when they used OBS because the volunteers needed to see it because they didn't know what all the scenes were that were already created, because the scenes don't really give you a preview, but that was a way that they could see a preview. Now, the other thing is you might not have boxes like this, okay? Now, I don't think you can do that in here. Yeah, you can do that in here, but in the scenes, you can right click in here and you can change it to be list mode. And this might be how you all are seeing your lists. For me, I prefer for mine to look different. So I can right click in here and I can go back to grid mode and it gives me this button layout where it doesn't necessarily show me all the titles. Let me see if I make this longer. It doesn't make the buttons any bigger. It just kind of makes them all the same size. So if you got long titles for your scenes, you may run into where you can't read them all the way, but you can read most of mine pretty easily. Now, what is a scene? In OBS, a scene represents what people see is one scene, okay? So what you can see on the screen right now is one scene, and it's made up of multiple sources. So all the sources you want to show for that scene, you put them in there as a source for that scene. Now, it's hard for me to show you guys this while I'm live streaming, so I can't really do that. But the way it works for OBS is you first start with a new scene. So you would hit the plus sign, make a new scene, and in that scene, you would title it, and then you would add sources to it. So maybe you want to add a camera feed for one of your scenes. Another scene, you might want to add a camera feed and a FreeShow overlay, okay? And for example, this one, as I told you, I'm showing you guys before, when I come here, I got to show it this way. Let me see if I can show you guys another scene. I've got split share. So this is an example of one that has a bunch of different sources in one scene, all right? So I've got FreeShow live stream, all right? That's how you guys are able to see the countdown timer, because if I turn it off, watch what happens. It makes the countdown timer go away because that's my NDI feed coming in from FreeShow. I can turn it back on by hitting that eyeball and it comes right back, okay? The GH5, this is my camera. So if I mute that, you guys can hear me, but you still can't see me, okay? So that's my piece of our source there. And then the top screen, this is actually the live feed this on this right side. So this is, I say live feed, this is the screen share that's on the right side. And then the white box, that's just the outline. It looks like an outline, but it's really just a big box. And I just put these little other pieces on top of it, okay? And then the yellow background is just that. It's just a yellow background. If I take it away, it'd just be black, okay? You may not need all those layers. This is just my design personally that I wanted to make it set up because I wanted to have this side by side, like I'm looking at my screen with you and we're walking through it together. So that's what the design is laid out to be. But these are all sources that I wanted to have on this particular scene, okay? So for your ministry, you may have one scene that's just your primary FreeShow screen, okay? Your primary screen that everybody sees in-house, you can make a scene This is just called primary. And I've got one here somewhere. I don't know what it's called. FreeShow. It might be called FreeShow Primary, but I've got one. So it is here. Okay. So it's called, yeah, FreeShow Primary. And then I've got, you might have another one that's just a camera, right? Just a camera feed with no overlay. So it may not have the FreeShow overlay. It's just a camera feed. And if I turn off my background, you just have a camera feed. It looks just like that. Then you could have another scene that is called your, I'm gonna turn these back on because I prefer those on, but you might have another scene that has your camera feed with your FreeShow live stream overlay piece, right? These overlays that we've got. So you might have something that looks like this, where it's a camera feed, and then I call mine FreeShow live stream. In terms of sources in OBS, you can name it whatever you want. I called it that to keep it simple for me to understand what I'm looking at and what people can see, so I can turn on titles and things like that, and those come up. I can clear those out, and I'm using BitFocus Companion for that part of it, but you can do that from here by simply turning this on and off. Okay. So scenes encompass all of your sources. So a scene is almost like, I would say it's like a show in FreeShow, and then the sources are kind of like your slides. But in this program, they're really just layers. Okay. They're not individual slides you show separate. They all show together at the same time. And then you can go to a different sort or scene and it'll be a whole different layout, right? So I can take this same video of me here. It's here as well, same video, but I arranged it different, and it includes another source. It's the primary of FreeShow, and not, there's no FreeShow live stream set up here. Okay. Just the primary, and then my camera, and then some background stuff. Okay. And then the same idea here. Totally different scene, more stuff on there. This one's got the live stream, which is the overlays and things, which if I do that, that's the overlays, right? And then I got my camera, that's me right there. And then the top box is, or top screen, I'm sorry, is the screen that I'm sharing, which is my main screen here. And I just shrunk it down so it'll fit in the window here. All right. So that's the idea of how OBS works. Let's see here. Question here. Why is the font text different when you go between the slides in the output on the live stream style already set up? So why is the font text different when you go, but I'm saying go between the slides in the output on the live stream style already set up? Let me see if I can understand what you're saying there, Big L. Let me see. Let me make this. We'll go here first. So you said some fonts are different. I got to figure out what fonts you're talking about. Tell me where the fonts are that you're talking about. I'm going to pull up FreeShow real quick so you guys can see. So you said some fonts are different. This font in the overlay looks like this. And when it's here, it looks the same to me. Yeah, it's the exact same thing. Where are you seeing a different font, Big L? That's what I'm curious about. Why is the font text different when you between the slides in the output on the live stream style already set up? All right, so let's go to a song. Maybe that's what you're talking about. I'm gonna clear out this background. So let's go here. All right. Let's go this. I moved this one down I was doing a demonstration, so forgive me for that one being low. All right, so we're looking at this. Let me clear out my overlays. And so you said something about fonts being different. So this is a font here. This is what the audience would see, okay? And you're saying if I were to go here, it would look different. It looks the same to me. This is the output on OBS. And then this is the output for the in-house, which it's not easy to tell, but that's, yeah. So tell me more about what you mean. Tell me more about what you mean. I'm not sure I follow you on that one, Big L. How do you, let's see here. And so you said when I have lower thirds in the live stream. Okay. So your live stream font is going to be based on the template that you're using in your style. That's literally the only reason why they would be different. And so if I go back to here, so let's say I go to this and I want to make that font show up. I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to turn on my slides. Okay. So right now my slides are off on this particular style. And I've got some templates down here though. Okay. So if I turn this on, you'll see here that my lower third lyrics transparent. That's one of the templates I'm using for my regular slides. And then this is the template I'm using for my scripture slides. Okay. So now this is what the font looks like for my live stream. So if I were to go here, you always see that font down there. Okay. That is solely dependent on how you want it to look. That's the cool thing about FreeShow is that whatever template you tie to that style. Okay. So in your styles, I've got mine set to where this particular one, let me see. This is called Stream Training. It has a slide override template. Okay. Now, what that means is I've set it to where it is going to override to where there's never going to be more than 2 lines on any of my live stream lower thirds. And I've got it set to where it's going to always be the lower thirds transparent for songs, and then scripture lower thirds with a parenthesis of 2 is in the title for my scriptures. This template dictates that particular font style, color, all that stuff. So if I go here, lower third, LT lyrics transparent, and I can just click on this and you can see if I go to, let's do here, you'll see a list of all the different templates I could select from. Right now, these are in alphabetical order. So I'm gonna go down to the LT lyrics transparent. It might be near the end here. LT lyrics, that's the scripture. Let's see here. Here we go. LT lyrics transparent. It just looks like that. But if I wanted a different font, I would change this template. I would go to my template settings and change this template to look whatever font I want it to look like. So that's why it would look different. It's because you have a different template. Let's see here. How do you put the reference on the bottom of the scripture when you show the scripture? I see how not to show reference. All right, so Bobby Manning says, how do you put the reference on the bottom of the scripture? All right, let's talk about that. How do you put the reference on the bottom? So that is also tied to a template. So the way things look, okay, in terms of individual slides, I would always recommend you do that with a template. So I'm gonna go to my templates and I'm gonna go over to scripture templates. I'm in the category here. And you'll see here, all of my scripture templates have it at the bottom. And that is by default on the main scripture here. So scripture here, you'll see the scripture references here at the bottom, and it's called meta. Okay. And then the scripture text goes there. If you wanted yours to be somewhere else, you can move it around. But let's go. I'm gonna edit this one, the big scripture big. I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna go to edit. Now it's showing here number 1. Remember I told you guys, whatever you put in your templates for the text, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anything. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Oh, you still can't see it. My bad. So what I was doing was I was showing you guys my templates. I got to remember to do better with that. So forgive me. This is where when I'm trying to share OBS, it's hard because I have OBS in a different place and I usually have it like not there. All right, let me right click on this. I'm gonna make the slides go away for now. So you guys can see easier. All right. So in your templates, and I went to scriptures. So these are my scripture templates. All of them are showing the meta at the bottom. That's the reference of the scripture. And then above, the big boxes are going to be the actual text of the scripture, whatever the verse says. And then this is going to be the Bible reference and all that kind of stuff. Whenever you're doing a scripture template, you always want to have at least 2 boxes, one for the reference and one for the actual scripture itself. And I believe if we go to this one, for example, if I right click on this and edit, the way I understand it's dictated is if you go to items, this text box here that says meta is the reference. And so as long as that's the one at the top, it should be referenced on any template you make, as long as you keep the meta at the top. Or if you name it meta, it should carry over pretty simply as well. But the actual scripture itself is the bottom layer or the lower level of the scriptures. And so when I go to a scripture and I've got it set to the scripture template, which we have here, and I select one, you'll see that it looks, I'll double click it so it'll show up. It puts the verse reference down here and it puts the verse up here. If those got switched around on the template and I move these in different order, you'll see that that'll get transposed and the content will be in a different place. And we don't want that. So let me see here. Let's switch that around and let's go here. I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. This is what could happen. And that's based on literally the order, okay, of those items. So if I go back, I'm editing this template still, and I'm under the items category or tag here, and I can move this back up. So meta, your reference is at the top by default. That's the idea. Now when I go to the next scripture, you'll see that it automatically updates and it brings the reference down at the bottom. So I think that gets to what you were asking about on that one, Bobby. That's how you can make it show at the bottom. And these are just, you can move these. These are just boxes, right? So you can move them wherever you want to. But the arrangement of them is totally up to you. But the item layer is always the same. So even if I move this and change the order, let's say I move this down here and this one up top. This doesn't change the layer of these items. It just changes the arrangement on the screen for the audience. So I pull that down. What do you think is going to happen when I update this particular scripture? Because right now the reference is down at the bottom here and the scripture's up there. Well, when I go to this one, it just moves the scripture reference to the top because it was an item that I moved up to the top on the screen, but I didn't change the layer that it was in on the slide, okay? And so these are like layers, like if you've ever used Canva or Photoshop, or even like we showed in OBS. These are layers. So when I was showing you guys me here, you got the orange in the background. That's a layer at the bottom. And then you got my video camera on top of that. That's how this is here. This is literally arranging it like your sources in OBS, where they're stacked up on top of each other in that area. This is the way that they look to the audience, which doesn't have anything to do with the way that they're arranged in terms of top and bottom. Okay. So I'm gonna put this back as best I can, at least. Okay. And so now when I go to it, my scripture reference is at the bottom and the scripture is there. Okay. Let's see here. Big L says, my text for my live stream changes even though my in-house is the same text. Yes, so that has to do with the template you're using for your live stream, Big L. The template you have is using a different text. You're probably overriding it to have a different template. And you just need to make sure if you want those texts to be the same, make sure you're using the same font on both of those templates. Malvin says, do you suggest playing video through FreeShow instead of OBS as a scene? If so, please share why. That's a very good question. Personally, I recommend playing your video through OBS. Okay. I really don't have a reason. I think for me, the reason for it is because it gives me more flexibility in FreeShow. If I take the video feed out of FreeShow, I can make special backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. But if I try to make the video feed show up from FreeShow, I got to have the video as a part of my background. And I want to use different backgrounds in-house than I want to do online. And so my online feed, only thing I need from FreeShow is the text. I can put any camera, maybe from my switcher, my ATEM or something like that. I can put any camera I want to now behind that text, because maybe you're switching and having multiple different, I don't know, you got 3 or 4 different cameras in the sanctuary. You can do that easier to me from OBS, and it doesn't interfere with anything in-house. Now, some people said, hey, I want my in-house to see the cameras just like the online. In that case, then it may be best to have it come through FreeShow. Okay, if you want the audience to see in-house the same thing the audience online sees in terms of video, then I would just do it in FreeShow, because you're not trying to put special backgrounds there. Okay, and or if you are, you're going to change your backgrounds in FreeShow to affect that. The downside of it is, to me, it still limits your flexibility, because your online audience is going to see everything the in-house audience sees, which for some of you all, that's the plan. That's the preference. That's just not my preference, because for me, I don't typically show cameras in-house. I typically just show scriptures or song lyrics or just general backgrounds, or it's just completely black, right? I usually don't show the camera feed. Now, some churches, a lot of churches nowadays are doing that more, because that was back with COVID, that just wasn't a thing when nobody was in the church sometimes. But I've just kind of adopted that as my mentality to do that, unless it's I'm trying to think about a reason why I would find any benefit in it. I think a lot of churches just do that because that's their it's a useful tool for the audience, because maybe the church is so wide or something like that, and everybody's a different distance. So you got monitors. I've seen it where monitors are on the side, not necessarily in the front, but on the side in the middle of the sanctuary, right? To where the people in the back can see that monitor off to the side, and it's easier for them to see the pastor, the speaker, the singers, whoever it is that's on stage, from the TV monitor that's right there, that they might be 10 feet away from, as opposed to the podium, which is 100 feet away, if that makes sense. So there's a benefit there. But what you're doing is you're exchanging flexibility for whatever you're trying to do. And that's the question. It really depends on what your goal is. So if your goal is to have flexibility, um, I would say keep your video feed in OBS from a switcher. Okay. And then if it's in OBS, or if it's on the switcher, you got that switcher connected to your computer, all you need to do then is you can switch to that same feed in FreeShow if you want your audience to see that in-house, but you also can turn it off. But your online audience on OBS, they're not, that doesn't interfere with them, because OBS is getting that same feed as well from the switcher, and it's using that consistently, and it has a transparent background from FreeShow to do whatever you want to with it. Okay. Great question. Says my text from my live stream changes. Okay. And Big L says the style is set. However, when I go from slide 1 to slide 2, the text may get bigger. Okay. So Big L, the reason why your text may get bigger is because you've got it set to auto size. Okay. That's a good question. So you're talking about the size of your text. That makes a lot of sense. So going back, Big L's question, I thought initially was the font style, but he's talking about the font size going up and down, right? Getting bigger and smaller. So how do we manage that, right? Because some of us don't like for it to be changing so much. That's a very good question. So what I would recommend you do, let's go back to, we'll just go to another template. And I'll do my lower thirds template. I'll let you guys see how I did it. This is my lower third lyrics transparent. So I'm gonna right click on that and let's do edit. And this is one you can download from my website, but I want you to understand something about how it was designed, because if you want to edit your own, that's important. So right now I've got it set to where there is no auto sizing, but I made it to where the fonts are set to 50. Okay. So mine do not change the size. However, the reason why that doesn't matter to me is because I've kind of tested it out to make sure lyrics will fit the way I want. But the other thing is, when I made my style that included this template, so if I go and right click here, one of the things I did, so my style is called stream training. If we go to that and you look at it behind the scenes, you're going to notice that all of my slides, it defaulted to that. I don't know what that is. This lyrics transparent. What in the world did I do? Let me see here. If I go to edit stream training, I changed it. Let's do live training 2, I think is the one I want. I don't know where my lower thirds went. No. That is weird. Let me see here. Did I turn them off, y'all? Let me see. What can y'all see right now? So right now that's big and blocky. That's hilarious. Let me see here. Let's live training 2. Let me edit that and see what I got here. So I got lower third and then lower third charcoal grunge. I don't want that to be my default, but I want to change it to be something else. And I think it was this one. So it's called stream training. And let's go here again. I'm gonna right click edit. This is called live 2 training. I'm gonna change it to where it's stream training. And stream training changed that too, which is interesting. And let's edit that. Lower third lyrics transparent. So it should be transparent. That's fine. And it might be, I don't think I put an action on here anywhere. There we go. I just needed to update. Okay. And so, sorry about that. The idea is, let me see if I can find a long line. So this has got a long line in it. Okay. What you're looking at here, break every stronghold is there, break every stronghold, break every stronghold. All of it fits just fine, even though that's quite a bit of text. I'm trying to see if I got a song that has a lot of text. So here's one. All right, so this song has a lot of text. A lot, all right? But if I go here, it doesn't even show it all. It cuts it off, but the size doesn't change because I got it to where the size does not shrink to fit, but it breaks it up to be, if I right click on this and edit that style, I've got it set to where it only limits it to where it's only 2 lines per slide, per text box on my song lyrics. Just 2 lines, that's it, okay? And the reason that is because it allows it to stay consistently the same on my live stream. The text doesn't get smaller or larger, it stays the same, all right? So that's the idea behind it. Hopefully that makes sense for you. Let me see here. So Big L, yeah, that's the reason why is that you probably got your set to shrink to fit. You need to go and turn that off, but you need to go back and add a template to the style you're using and make that template limit the lines. You maybe want it to be 1 line, right? And just adjust your template size of the font to fit right the way you want. And then you can make those changes. So if you go back and you look at my template, let's go to, I was playing with one here. This the left bar. It's kind of, it got weird, so I can't share it with you guys. If I go here to edit to this template, these are well spaced. There's plenty of room. They're not going to overlap or anything like that. So I made sure of that. That's the main thing. But if I start making these bigger, it just starts shrinking and it doesn't even fit right. So I made it to where they don't change and they can fit in there right. And so if I make it smaller, notice that it's there. And I made it to where I just arrowed it up to where it stopped like jumping. So when it jumped at 48, we'll keep it at 48. And that would be what I would keep it at for that. And then as I go through the show, that font is not changing size, but it's just showing 2 lines at a time. All right. Being a one-man show, would you suggest 4 lines versus 2 lines? It depends on how you want your live stream to look. Okay, that would be my thought with that. I would say it depends on how you want your live stream to look. I think 4 lines can get a little bulky and small. So even if you're a one-man show, you're still just going to be using your arrow key to go through each one. So you got that one, and then we hit it again, and it changes it. It doesn't change it in-house. It just changes it online. And then the same way here, it changes it. That one actually all fit on 2 lines. And then this one, it's double. So you'll see it. It'll show you this little highlight bar here, and it shows that there's half of it still left to show. When I arrow to the right, it pulls up the rest of it. So I would say still 2 lines for consistency's sake for your live stream folks. They can actually see it a little bit easier. So I wouldn't say it needs to be 4 lines, but it's definitely an option. But it depends on you. Depends on how much other things you got going on. You don't ever want to feel frantic if you can help it. Now, things are going to happen. Like this morning for me, getting started, my OBS did something weird. It was just an all black screen, but it was still live streaming. I was like, I can't see the screen. I don't know what's going on. One of the best things I can tell you that I've learned over the years, at least, is, and you guys have done this too, you guys have experienced this, is that the best thing you can do as a media person is keep your calm, right? Keep your calm. Even when things don't make sense, be patient and try to figure it out. Be patient and try to figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, like no, when all else fails, restart, right? Start the program over, whatever you got to do, and just get it back going and be confident in what you're doing, and understanding it is going to be key. So meetings like this, and then playing around with it on your own, meeting with your own team, having those discussions, doing run-throughs, demonstrating how it works and how you would need to make it work are all be key, because the more comfortable you are with your tools, the more stuff you can build, right? My uncle, I remember he built a deck for us at a house we were at when I was in high school. And it was just him. And he had a truck, I guess, and he brought all this wood and he did all this. And all he had was a hammer and some nails. And that's all he needed. And he built a whole 2-story deck. And it was unbelievable. He did it I say super fast. It was fast to me. I think he did it in one day. He was just a beast with his hammer. He could, every nail he hit it one time and it was all the way in. I'm not that guy. I'm not good like that, right? But he was a professional carpenter, right? For us, we've got to be professionals and experts with our tools that we're using. Malvin says, Big L, when having lines more than 3 lines can be difficult to be read. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Like I said, it just makes it, it may be convenient for you, but it makes it difficult for the end reader or viewer. In those situations, I would say figure out ways you can expand your team, right? Start doing some personal recruiting and just inviting people that you think would want to participate, right? Not necessarily people that you think would be good, because techie people aren't always the best media volunteers. And you all know, because some of you all are the techie people, and you may not be the best with everybody being like you. You may need somebody on the team that's just more administrative, or someone on the team that's not, or somebody that's just ready and willing to learn, and they're younger. They're really young, and they just know how to hit the arrow keys, and that's all they need to do. And you teach them how to do that, and they're good to go. Okay. And you can train them up to do other things. All right. Yeah. Yeah. That's great feedback, you guys. And I love the community where we can give each other feedback that way. What other questions do you guys have for me? I know we already ran over on our time. I turned off my timer because I was clearing out stuff, but yeah, we're at 0. We are at 0. One thing that's pretty cool, I don't know if I've showed you guys this, but you can, well, you knew this. You can clear out your text in your slide by hitting that. But let's say you have multiple overlays going on, you can make them go away different. So I can turn on that and then turn this on as well. If I hit this little black arrow icon here, it shows me both. And I can just turn one off. So I can turn off the timer, but it keeps my other overlay active in there, which is really cool. Okay. So being very careful, you can hover over the black line up under, and you'll see, if you got it selected, you'll be able to see all the different layers for that overlay, or if you got multiple layers for your slides and so forth, you'll be able to see that, and you can turn off individual ones as needed. All right, you guys, it's been a long time, 2-hour long discussion. You guys have been great. We may continue this live stream discussion more. This is really good feedback for me. What I'll try to do is I want to try to make a tutorial that makes sense of all this for you guys, but I love hearing the feedback and questions that you have to help me kind of develop that. So keep the questions coming. Share this with some friends, those who you think would benefit from it, and we'll continue to grow the community. All right, you guys, until next time, let me make sure we don't have any other questions. Excellent. Well, I think we're good. You guys have been great. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching. I really hope it helped you in a major way. Now, at this point, most people would ask you to like and subscribe, and I think that's great. But my goal is a little bit different. My goal is to empower as many people as possible all over the globe. And there's one way that you can really help me do that, and that is to leave a comment below with a question, a thought, how this video may have helped you, or things that were left out that you still have questions about, and to share this video with someone just like you, someone who is looking for answers, someone who's curious and wants to grow. With your help, I believe we can build a community of people that want to grow